course, you never really know what facial expression Facebook is going to get. We are live, so hello, welcome. We are just finishing up the final prep for the Topic is Trek episode 139. This show is related strongly to and reviews season 2, episode 1 of Strange New Worlds. So if you have not seen that and want to avoid spoilers, go watch the episode first and then come back and listen to us talk about it. We'd love to share with you.
Indeed. Yes, that was the long spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert.
Oh, well, yeah, we could have probably, shortened it up with this.
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
I think it's somewhere in our contract. We have to play that.
Yeah.
Safe harbor, safe harbor, safe harbor. Okay, we are broadcasting. Valencia is around. Hey, Valencia, how's it going? Good to see you. Thank you for joining us. Hopefully you've watched the Unbroken Circle? No, the Broken Circle? What was the name of this episode again?
The Broken Circle, which is the name of the conspirators. Is
the ship they stole.
No. It's the name of their group is the Broken Circle.
Gotcha. Because I was looking through the whole thing twice, going, where did they come up with this show title? Okay. So we've already made a spoiler that there's some sort of conspiracy group.
Oh, we said spoiler alert. So there we go.
Okay. So I'm just going to bring up what little show notes I have for mine when we get to that point. There. I'm ready. You ready?
I am ready.
All right. Then I will hit record in 5, 4, 3, 2.
This is The Topic is Trek, episode 139 for Friday, June 16th, 2023. Coming up in this episode, and the Emmy goes to... It's okay to eject the warp core shacks. We have plenty of them. And it is still very cold in space. All that and more right now on The Topic is Trek. Strange Moo Worlds. Welcome to The Topic is Trek, the podcast that runs on impulse power. Join us for a journey where no show has gone before. If it has to do with Star Trek, there's a good chance we'll talk about it sooner or later, because on this show, the topic is Trek. Engage already. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to another thrill-packed episode of The Topic is Trek. I'm Clinton, one of your co-hosts, and of course, to be a co-host, you have to have other hosts. But we've got a slight change up here. So first, beaming in to join me, as always, is Mr. Chuck Tomasi.
Hey, everybody. Good to be here.
Well, it's great to have you here with us. But we have a surprise because this week, Craig Stepp is on a special assignment. So we're happy to beam in longtime friend of the show, Gary Lindros, with his hip new catchphrase that all the kids will be talking about.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me. I don't really have my catchphrase yet. I'm workshopping it. I'm thinking about, hey, let's try that airlock door.
Ooh, well, that's certainly a way to go. I've got to admit that.
No, I never missed Craig more. I kind of miss his bad puns. Gary, the bar wasn't that high.
Oh. As a friend of mine once said, set the bar low and jump over it. So.
There you go.
I never thought Craig, had a precedent set, but yeah, I guess he does.
Well, I'd like to say, first of all, to everyone here, a happy Captain Picard Day, because the day this episode comes out is Captain Picard Day.
Make it so, number one. I love that picture of Wrecker with the doll. I also have to, if you're not watching the video stream, I invite you to go over to our YouTube channel. The title of the show is Strange Moo Worlds, And Clinton had a graphic up there. The first thing you notice is purple cows. But the more you look at that picture, the more it starts to jump out at you. There's Vasquez rocks in the background. It's like, oh, yeah, it is. And then you realize they have red eyes and antenna. What? Like, those cheesy little 1950s Martian antennas.
Yeah.
So those were indeed strange moos.
Well done. Who did you come up with that?
I did. Strange doesn't have a lot of words that kind of, work. So I had to let's move on to some other words in that title. Speaking of interesting things, Picard Day is on June 16th. On June 9th, I hope you all join me in the theaters to go see the new Star Trek. Oh, never mind. If you recall, this was the first date, June 9th, 2023, that was given for the premiere of the new Star Trek movie long ago, when there was still going to be a new Star Trek movie coming to theaters. Eventually, they moved it to December, but it was supposed to originally be out on June 9th, 2023. That, no, didn't happen.
I don't have a sad trombone, but I do have this. Ralph
That pretty much says it all.
He thinks they're Andorian cows, but Andorians would be blue cows. What would the purple cows be?
Isn't that kind of a cheese? No, it's a laughing cow. That's not what that is either. Well, all the silliness doesn't preclude the fact that we have to get to business at hand. And of course, the first part of the business at hand is to check with Charlie to make sure that it's okay to start up Subspace Chatter. So, Charlie, is it okay?
You don't need all that subspace chatter.
Absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much, Charlie. Your consistency is amazing.
Charms us with that smile in his blue eyes every time, and then yanks the rug out from under us.
He's the kind of guy that will paint that, that fake tunnel on the solid brick wall.
And then the yellow stripe that leads into it.
All right. Well, Chuck, you have our first story from Subspace Chatter because we're going ahead anyway.
Alrighty, I need a button here. Now I'm dialed in. There we go. The third season of Star Trek Picard has been getting some Emmy buzz, with Patrick Stewart being mentioned as a possible contender for Best Actor in a Drama Series. That was terrible. I don't know what it was supposed to be.
I don't know who was supposed to be. Is that like Lon Chaney or something? I don't know.
Arnold Schwarzenegger, maybe. The Hollywood Reporter ranks Stewart as a major threat to the frontrunners. Some of the other actors from Picard are also being noticed, although, like Stewart, they are considered long shots. There has been some buzz around Amanda Plummer, who played Vadic, for Best Supporting Actress, and Michelle Forbes, of course, who plays Rolaren, for Best Guest Actress. Critics have been calling the third season of Picard the best season of the series. I would tend to agree. In a piece comparing the series finales of Picard and Emmy favorite Succession, Joshua Patton of website CBR wrote that none of Succession's characters are good people is something that the show prides itself on. Picard's final season executes a more difficult task by telling a story about how each character is worthy. Optimism, compassion, and a commitment to hope are much harder things to sell in a drama than gross villains learning nothing. CBS Studios and Paramount Plus have been running a major For Your Consideration campaign around Picard, highlighting both the actors and the behind-the-camera technical achievements of the season. The 2023 Emmy voting is currently underway. The nominees will be announced on July 12th. Creative Arts Emmys will be presented on September 9th and 10th, and the main Emmy Awards ceremony will be on September 18th.
So I don't know what you think the chances are. There's actually a I don't know if there's a site or it's probably a website, but it's kind of like I wouldn't say they're giving odds, but close enough to it about who is going to be in the running for nominations.
Mm-hmm.
Do you view any of the performances in Picard to be something that you would consider to be Emmy worthy?
Nothing that jumps out at me. Obviously, Patrick Stewart is a very fine. All of them are fine actors. And I don't have any comparison because I've not seen Succession. I've heard good things about it. I'd like to see it, but I just haven't gotten to it yet. So I don't know. There's what did Michelle Forbes do to warrant the best guest? And Vatic, I can see. That was a particularly difficult yet intriguing part to play.
Yeah, I think
So I'd be behind that one.
Yeah, because I think it was an interesting level of scenery chewing that kind of took a different slant from your normal villain
Yeah.
and made it an intriguing character to watch. And kind of when she wasn't around for an episode or so, you went, "Hey, where's Vatic? What's up
Yeah,
with that?"
she played the the villain well. One minute she's laughing in the face of danger because she thinks that everything's on her side. The next she's got to report to the head honcho and do it or get fired or fired out the torpedo tube. So there was a lot to that character and again very challenging from an acting standpoint. I don't know that anything else would. You could say, um, Jack Crusher was also another interesting one. He had a pretty broad range of acting to play too. Now he obviously wasn't on this list, or maybe he was and just wasn't in the article. But I would say, Jack had to navigate some crazy waters too.
Any thoughts on it, Gary?
Yeah, I would have suggested Shaw as well. It's hard to come.
Right.
You can't just come into an ensemble piece like this and be the new guy and have to not only carry your character, but boss around Picard and and really swing your weight against the rest of this crew. I thought he did a great job.
Yes.
Definitely very memorable, and he created a good character, which is what an actor is supposed to do.
Yeah, sorry they killed him off because he was becoming such a character you could love. Not just, he started out as, the big jerk. And it was like, what the heck is wrong with this guy?
Oh, yeah.
And then you find out what's wrong with him, and then you get behind him going, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, when he went through the whole Wolf explanation of why he didn't like Picard, that was heart-rending.
Oh, good call. Good call.
Yeah. Well, we will see because the it won't be long until we see who the nominees are in the categories. All right, now it was only a few weeks ago that the video game Star Trek Resurgence was released to generally favorable reviews. I was going to give a review myself on it this episode, but I haven't got far enough into it yet to justify giving a review, so we'll save that for another episode. But now another game maker, Nimble Giant Entertainment, has announced another Trek game, Star Trek Infinite. At the moment, we don't know much about this one, except that what's in the trailer. So let's take a look at that or kind of delve into that one. It starts off with the sound of an unnamed captain making their latest log entry for stardate 43152.4, stating that the fleet is entering hostile territory. We see a Galaxy-class starship maneuvering through an asteroid field. As the view pans right, 7 other Starfleet ships come into view. Suddenly, the log entry audio becomes garbled, and we cut to the close-up of a Borg cube. The fleet is headed directly towards it. Then we back up. We back way out to a galaxy-level view. Here we see the areas controlled by the Klingons, Romulans, and Cardassian empires, as well as the boundaries of Federation space. Lastly, we see images of Romulan Commander Tereth, Gul Dukat, Gowron, and Captain Picard, although this game is set in the decades before TNG, which also makes it puzzling to have the Borg in this as well.
I guess so.
The game's press release notes players will run an entire fleet within the Star Trek universe, and players will command one of 4 major powers in the galaxy: the United Federation of Planets, Romulan Star Empire, Cardassian Union, or Klingon Empire. Each faction has individual traits, stories, quests, and more to make their play feel distinct. And the game will be available for Windows and Mac PCs. Now, of course, by the time you are hearing or watching this, if you're not watching us live, you may know more than we do, because more information is supposed to drop on Captain Picard Day, which is, as of when we're recording, tomorrow. So you're much smarter than we are when it comes to this subject.
That's not, again, very low bar on this show.
I know, but it's still, it's true. I'm intrigued by this one. It's being distributed through Paradox Interactive, and they're kind of the parent company. I play one of the games that's available through Paradox, which is City Skylines, and that has a very big and very interactive community, and the community interacts very well with the actual game producers. And I'm hoping that that level, which seems to be in a lot of the games that Paradox works with, that sort of thing carries through in a lot of the different games. So hopefully this is something, because I see that this will probably keep having more content added as time goes on, hopefully. And I think feedback from the fans, the players of the game, is always good to get, and tweak things as you go.
You had me at that first paragraph when you said the unnamed captain making their latest log entry. And if all you hear is the voice, my imagination went something like this. Captain log, stardate 43152.4. The fleet has entered hostile territory. Again?
So the first officer's a squirrel. I get it. Okay.
Oh, we've got, let's see. So Crazy Joe says, I always assumed that after the events of Regeneration, which was an Enterprise, that certain high-level individuals in Starfleet knew about the Borg before Picard made first contact, hence the Hansons knowing. Right. That continues on the next one, about them prior to Q-Who. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, that we had that thing where the Hansons were going out essentially seeking the Borg, and that would have been before Q-Who. Still, it was very interesting because it's decades before, and yet you have a Galaxy class starship. Now, I know there were probably Galaxy class starships before the Enterprise, but decades before, that's interesting. I don't know. All right, let's move on to our next story. You're up, Gary.
Yes, and if you don't get enough Star Trek in your everyday life, Paramount Plus has you in mind. Paramount Plus has released a new YouTube video for everyone out there who just can't hear enough Warp Core from Enterprise D ambient sound. Seemingly designed specifically for ensigns Rutherford and Tendi, this 3-hour-long video features a looping image of the antimatter reactor chamber paired with heartbeat-like rhythms of the pulsing core, plus some control chirps thrown in just for good measure. Now, this thing isn't a new idea. We here at The Topic is Trek have been geeking out at these Warp Core ambience videos for years. In fact, when you go to the show notes for episode 139, Strange Moo Worlds, over at The Topic is Trek,
wait for it,
ding, you'll find links to our 4 similar videos ranging in length from 2.5 minutes to over 12 hours, and not a Warp Core breach in sight. So be sure to check them out. It's really nice listening while you're doing work or something in the background sometimes.
I have the 12-hour one, and I extracted the audio, and I put it on my device, my mobile device, and I use it to sleep at night. But it's not the Enterprise. No, it doesn't have that thrum sound.
Well,
in fact,
each one of these videos
in the background. So
each one of these videos that I linked to is I think I specifically found ones that they all sampled or created different versions of that sound. So if you don't like that one, there might be another one in there.
That's what I'm going to say. If I can find, this 3-hour one and it's good, I'll make a new 12-hour one out of it. I like having that on my device because I may be, in an airplane or something, which is rather ironic because the sound of a jet going through the air sounds very similar to what I've recorded. So I'm putting headphones on to play sound that sounds like the sound I'm drowning out. It's really weird.
Yeah, I'll use it for white noise when I travel.
Yep.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so we've got something for everyone in that category. All right, and in Vulcan, Alberta, Canada news,
did something happen?
Well, in some episodes of The Topic is Trek, the fact that the Alberta government is providing a $100,000 Canadian grant to the Vulcan Airport for a
That's
runway
$30
ceiling
US.
project would be our lead Vulcan story, or the fact that the town is in talks with Wyndham Hotels about building a small-scale hotel in town. Well, that might get our attention. Even the Vulcan Municipal Library winning an award for the innovative idea of adding a student representative position to get the perspective of the youths in the areas might have been the thing we talked about. But the big story was that Vulcan, Alberta, Canada just held the annual Spock Days.
Yay!
As you undoubtedly recall, last year, because we covered it on our show, Conan did not cover this. We did. The town held their 2 summer Trek events, Spock Days and Vulcan, on the same weekend. But this year, it's back to normal with Spock Days in June, and that's gone by, but you still have a chance because Vulcan is in July. Now, for coverage of the event, including a video, just go to the show notes for episode 139, Strange Moo Worlds, over at thetopicistrek.com. Yeah, so it was interesting because, as you know, I try to find stories that are local interest when we don't have anything specific to Star Trek going on in Vulcan, Alberta, Canada. And there were 3 stories there that could have been the fill-in for this thing. And nope, got to go with Spock Days. So I figured I wanted to at least highlight those other events happening in town.
Well, now that they're
Spread
getting
'em
a
out.
hotel, I can come visit. There you go.
Yeah, they also did a you should get some input on this because they were doing different surveys about rates and things like that they would be charging for. So say like $4. I think they should charge $4 for a room. That would be.
They did say small scale hotel.
Yes. But
Each room is the size of a shoebox.
it depends on how big your shoes are. That could mean a whole lot.
So like an ensign's bunk. I got you. Okay.
Yeah, on the lower decks. Yeah.
It's just gonna rip those rooms out of the Galactic Cruiser and just bring them to Vulcan. Oops! Oh, too soon. All right. Well, we covered a lot of stories here, but we have links to an additional 65 stories broken out by series and movies and other categories like comics, DVDs, books, video games, things that cover Star Trek in general. You can find all these links over at thetopicistrek.com in the show notes for episode 139, Strange Moo Worlds.
Just those links would make a show by themselves. You do a great job posting them all.
Oh yeah.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I keep adding new categories as well. We're really getting up there, but now comes the favorite part of the show, and that's where I get to say goodbye, Charlie.
Oh, I thought it was time to say, don't put on the red shirt.
No.
I want to stay.
We should put a red shirt on Charlie. That solved the problem.
That's kind of an orange shirt that he's got on in this slide we've got up. Yeah, I'll put a red
Kirk
shirt.
liked it enough. He took one himself.
Yeah. I'll fix it in post. Don't worry about it.
Actually, Charlie took Kirk's and ran it through the laundry, but didn't put it on. Nice going with the laundry, Charlie. I can't trust you to do anything.
And in with the whites. Oh, I can't believe it. All right, now it's time to head out on our main mission with an appropriate sound effect.
Oh, let's see what we can find here. This would work. Starbase Alpha, come in, Starbase Alpha.
All right, we are going to be doing something spoilerific. So last warning that we're doing that. And
Spoiler alert.
Okay, with that now, Chuck is going to give us some information, nuts and bolts about the episode we're talking about.
Nuts and bolts about season 2, episode 1, titled Strange New Worlds, The Broken Circle. This was written by series executive producers Henry Alonzo Myers and Akiva Goldsman. Goldsman and Myers served as co-showrunners on Strange New Worlds. Recently, Akiva Goldsman's latest project, The Crowded Room, a TV miniseries starring Tom Holland and Amanda Seyfried, premiered on Apple+. Both Goldsman and Myers have extensive experience in producing for television. We love it. This was, of course, directed by Chris Fisher, who served as the co-executive producer on Strange New Worlds. Previously, he served as a producer on several TV series, including The Magicians, Inhumans, Person of Interest, and one of my personal favorites, Warehouse 13. This is Fisher's second time directing Trek. His first was the Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 1 finale, A Quality of Mercy.
Okay, well, give us a little bit of a short synopsis of the episode, Gary.
Oh, okay. The USS Enterprise is undergoing systems checks and upgrades at Starbase 1, and what a starbase that is. Captain Picard puts Spock in charge of the ship while he's making a trip connected to Number One's upcoming trial and her legal defense. Naturally, with the captain gone, things soon get complicated. A distress call from Lieutenant Laal Noonien Singh compels Spock to disobey orders and take the USS Enterprise and its crew into disputed space, risking renewed hostilities with the Klingons in a bid to aid their shipmate.
All right. Well, we'll get into the specifics about the episode in just 1 minute, but I thought it would be interesting. I don't have slides from the actual episode because that would be a lot of slides, but I did look very carefully at the opening credits, and as is usually the case with Trek these days, there are differences from last season to this season.
Yes.
So there are 4 shots in particular. These 4 shots that show the Enterprise very close to the ground in 2 of them for effect. One on a planet that's kind of going through a gully, one on a planet that seems to that's an orange looking glow to it and has trees or something extending up from the ground. There's another shot inside some type of debris field, or I can't tell if whether that's natural or ship parts of that debris. And the last one is the Enterprise going through what definitely appears to be an asteroid field. However, as we talked about before, when we were looking at those little teaser images of this season for Star Trek, they had the artist doing all those different pieces that seem to relate to the different episodes. This one going through this asteroid field suddenly becomes very, very black and white. So I think we are definitely going to be seeing a black and white episode this season.
Captain Proton.
I don't think so, but that would be fun. It would be interesting to see that. Now, I looked at the shots that these are replacing, and I couldn't say that they necessarily were directly related to episodes we saw in season 1, but it's kind of abstract anyway, because you can make the argument that the shot that shows the planet with the orange glow to it, with the things extending up, that could be from this episode. But you could also make the argument that that debris that the Enterprise is kind of in could also be from this episode. And I don't think they'd all be from this one. So they're kind of very abstract representations of things. And so you can almost like you see what you want to see, or, you can interpret it the way you want to interpret it. But I think that they are definitely meant to hint at things.
I don't want the opening to be a spoiler reel either. So, that's fine.
Right. So definitely this is not something that just comes out and shows you something verbatim that you're going to be seeing in an episode.
I think they've trained us on Picard to look for little hidden hints, little Easter eggs in the
Discovery has done that from the beginning. They would always have things in there. So yeah, it definitely is a thing. And of course, we can't wait to the new season of Lower Decks to see how many ships are involved in that battle with the Borg.
Actually, Picard's, a lot of them were at the end, weren't they?
Yeah, well, they were all for Picard. Every episode had references in those credits. Sometimes it was big, sometimes it was small, but every single one of them had some reference somewhere. But it definitely wasn't a spoiler, because until you saw the episode,
right, you didn't know it was out of context.
Yeah, what does that mean? Even
right. We're just scanning across, a console interface, going, "Yep, that's nice," and then later you go, "Oh, those were the numbers," or "Oh, that was the frequency the message came in on." So, okay.
All right, so let's get to the episode itself. And as we previously stated, the episode begins with the Enterprise at Starbase 1, which...
What an opening scene.
But
My
was I the
gosh,
only one
that was
confused
beautiful.
by I thought Starbase 1 was near Earth. Jupiter was, like, right there. I couldn't figure out hadn't we previously seen the Starbase at Earth? I could be wrong. What do you gentlemen recall differently where Starbase 1 is has been
They had to
located?
move it because there was a new bypass going through.
Oh, that explains it.
Well,
You know,
I've
the
always thought it
Bogons
was in,
sent you the
I always
letter.
thought it was in our solar system, but I don't know that it was necessarily always orbiting Earth.
Okay.
And you look at this one; it very much had a much more of the movie feel to it from the latest movies versus the one, say, from like that we saw in Picard. It felt like a very different structure.
Right. I think that's what's confusing me though, because in Star Trek the Motion Picture, it's right around it's right around Earth. Well, actually that small space dock is right around Earth. I guess the large if you had a
Are we
large
mixing up Space Dock with
Yeah.
Starbase?
right. So okay. I guess it just struck me as odd, but be that as it may, and it may be that way. Yes, an amazing shot, a very long shot that's circling around. You're following a shuttle going
I think it was
around.
a repair pod because eventually it landed on the hull of the Enterprise and started doing something.
Hmm.
And then you saw other ones attached kind of doing their thing. So
And the
We-
soundtrack as they're going through the scene was very nice. It was, they harkened back to the original show in some of the tones. It was really well put together.
Right. You get it. You get the Alexander Courage theme when suddenly you see the Enterprise, in its dock. Picard, Picard. Had me doing that. I think it was Pike. Pike is giving his captain's log, and he says he senses tension among the brass on the starbase, and he can't quite pin it down, but there's just some tension there. And of course, we will come to find out what that tension is about before the episode is done. But he
What?
doesn't have time to worry about that because he's talking with Una, and of course,
remotely
number one is
over Zoom.
in a very nice area. I guess she's in a brig someplace, but it's got a nice television set to communicate. There doesn't seem to be any guards around. It's just kind of a very chill place that she is. But
It's a white collar prison.
yeah, well,
The officer quarters. Yeah.
she hints and Pike hint that there's a certain lawyer that they think could possibly take on this case, but that lawyer is not returning any of their calls. And Pike says, "Well, I'm going to go and go talk to that person." And Una is all,
You're wasting
"Don't-
your time.
You're also got you're sucking your career down with mine. Don't do it." And of course, Pike is going to be the Boy Scout, and he's going to do the right thing. So he heads off to do his thing, but he decides he will give Spock command while he's gone.
Lieutenant Spock.
Yeah.
Is there nobody of higher rank on the ship at this point?
Well,
Found
let's
a
see.
lot of this stuff very low ranking. We have a lot of ensigns on the bridge
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah, I don't know who the next senior officer is. I mean, it's not Hemmer.
Too soon.
Too soon. Sorry, too soon.
It makes sense that they'd still have somebody of the command crew of the ship in charge, even if there's commanders and other people that are doing inspections and stuff like that. It's not their job to run the ship.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Spock is very anxious about this assignment. Like, you're leaving it with me? Not so sure about this. Is that
Famous
you
last
sure?
words.
Yeah,
Right.
famous last words.
But we get the answer to what's going on here because it seems very un-Spock-like to be concerned about this. Well, it turns out that those emotions that he released when he was fighting the Gorn, Dr. Mbenga says, well, now you're having to deal with all those emotions because they're just flowing out of you suddenly.
Yeah, deal with it like the rest of us.
Yeah, and Spock says, I'd prefer not to.
So he offers him an alternate method of dealing with his emotions and hands him the classic harp. I thought that was a Vulcan instrument, and maybe it is.
It is.
But
It's a Vulcan.
Mbenga just has this in his back closet.
He does.
that's my 2 points. Number one, he just happens to have one here. We don't have replicators the way that we do in the future at this moment. And then number two, damn, but doesn't that just fit so well? I mean,
Oh, I love
putting in
yeah.
a piece of continuity so well.
Well,
I love
keep in
that
mind,
as a
keep in
prop.
mind that Mbenga, either he interned or he spent several years on Vulcan, so that could be his. Right?
Is he loaning it to him and never got it back?
Probably. He should have said this isn't a gift. You know, maybe that was.
Maybe he just never got the hang of it, so it was a way to clear out his closet. You know,
Yeah. You know what you need? You need this and this clock. That will,
and an accordion. That'll release the tension.
that would be next if the harp didn't work.
I am so ready for the space hippies to come back now.
No. I mean, it's okay if we have, Spock, doing a duet with Uhura. That's fine, but not the space hippies, please. Not the space hippies.
Yeah, I know. I saw the interest in Uhura's voice. Where is that music? I was like I was getting
right. It's like, let's jam.
Yeah,
let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this Vulcan loot works until Chapel enters sickbay, and suddenly the blood pressure goes back up, the heart rate goes back up, and Spock excuses himself from the room.
Spock stage right. Yeah.
Yeah, but Mbenga and Chapel, that whole scene, I don't want to talk about it. I know. And that this unstated acknowledgement and sort of pushing to the side because of embarrassment or whatever. It was a really not not that there weren't a lot of good moments with those two characters in this episode, but that to me was a really nice interplay between them.
But she also gives him some bad news. She says that she's going to apply for an archaeological medical fellowship, which will have her spending 2 months on Vulcan. Which
she's going to be exiting for a little while.
Yeah. Well,
or it could be
not immediately. She's not going to be because
and it could be between episodes. It's like, okay, she's back, and how was your trip? You're sort of like if season 2 of TNG never happened. Welcome back, Dr. Crusher.
Yeah. Well, let's not do that. Let's not do that again, shall
we? I'm poking all kinds of bees nests tonight.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Meanwhile, on the bridge, Ortegas and Uhura are duking it out with the inspectors.
Yeah, I found you can't just walk up to somebody's workstation and go, "Hey, move! I got to do an upgrade." Like, I've been in IT for a while. You got to have a change process. You have to let people know ahead of time. I'm going to need to do an upgrade at 2 p.m. on this console. Make alternate plans. You don't just walk up and go, "I got to shut your thing down for a little while."
Well, no, but I see the guy's point. They're locked in, at Starbase 1 for a major upgrade and revision. They're hooked to the station. They can't move it unless the station releases them. It's not like they're that independent.
And yet, who finds the signal?
Call comes in.
Is Uhura, because she wouldn't let him take it down without her setting something else up so she could still monitor communications.
I half expected Aaron McDonald's voice. I half expected Aaron McDonald's voice to be going, "Yo, suck it."
Yeah. I also thought it was interesting that if you can, Ortega said that she had flipped some of the commands, some of the controls because they work better for her. And I'm thinking, if it's configurable, wouldn't it be like everything else on the ship where it's like, okay, I'm now on duty. I call up the Ortega's profile, and someone else relieves me. They call up their profile. I don't see the big deal, but the inspector was like, I don't like this at all.
Well, he probably saw the profile up and made the comment. That's
probably the guy that wrote the default profile and likes it best.
That was mine.
Red, not blue. Why'd you change the color?
Right. I specifically used the Blimey theme. Use my color scheme first.
Well, as we said, Uhura receives what appears to be a distress call from the Kajitar system. I believe that's how it's pronounced.
Yes.
Close
okay. Located at the edge of Klingon space. And it's from La'an.
Or so they think.
Right there. Right. So Spock does the right thing. And he reports this.
The right thing? Okay.
Well, he contacts Admiral April.
Is he
And
Admiral? Commodore? Admiral? What is
Is
he
he-
at this point?
maybe it's Commodore because maybe I'm just thinking of the animated series where it's I don't know.
It's April.
I thought it was an admiral, but I could be
Skywalker.
wrong.
And April shuts him down.
Yeah, says,
Too
hey,
rich.
that's nice. She knew the risk when she took it, and she's not in Starfleet at the moment. And bye bye.
And Kajitar is kind of co-owned by the Federation and the Klingons, and they alternate on a monthly basis. And guess whose month it is this time? Not ours.
What a weird thing as well to.
Yeah, what
to
kind of
negotiate.
treaty is that?
Not only
Not
that,
like you get
is
this
there a
hemisphere
separate-
and I get that hemisphere. It's like that would totally be a logistics nightmare. Oh, we got to move out. You move in.
I sure hope there's a separate base, because after we saw where the Klingons were, I'd hate to think that in a few months, then all the Federation people have to come in, clean the whole place up, and then they leave and come back, and it's a crap place again, filled with bodies.
I hate these roommates.
Yeah, that's the thing is like you spend half your time just cleaning up the mess to get at stuff. They say, well, bodies pile up. Oh my God, really? Okay, well, all
I'm
right.
not cleaning up that mess.
Yeah, I'd like to think there's a separate Federation base. At least that's where my headcanon's going.
So after Spock is turned down, Spock again kind of does the right thing. At this point, he calls senior staff together and he's discussing the situation, kind of getting opinions from people about.
And Benga says this could be a deception and a trap.
Right. Uhura says, well, it was targeted directly to the Enterprise. Lon would know where the Enterprise was at this time. It was
And
very
our maintenance
specific.
schedules. That seems like an odd thing to know.
Well, it could be a regular maintenance schedule, and if they were on assignment, they might have missed it, but apparently they were where they were scheduled to be.
If you know the maintenance schedules, why do you schedule it when the comm station could be down?
Because it's Starfleet, this red tape. Well, I suppose it shouldn't be red tape in Starfleet because then the red tape dies. So it's some other color tape in Starfleet that you've got to go through. So Spock hears all this out and then makes the logical decision from that point. He's going to steal the Enterprise.
I think that was a huge leap in the wrong direction. I don't think Spock would do that for one person that is electively off doing their own thing.
Well, I think
I just thought that was when I watched it the second time, I went, that seems like a stretch.
I think it's meant to be a stretch because the point that we were getting in the first part of the episode before this happened was that Spock is not really in full control of his feelings. And right now he's feeling like there's a person who was a member of this crew in danger and I've got to go save them. It's the right thing to do. And that's what
So you're thinking that the visit with the doctor and dealing with emotions. So this was an emotionally driven decision.
Oh, yeah.
Not this, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Much like Spock was saying to the doctor, he's not emotionally shouldn't be in charge right now.
And here's the proof.
And yeah, there we go. I thought it would have been a nice side mission for Pike actually on his way to wherever he was going to go to La'an. But yeah, we have to have this Spock. I don't know if development's the right word, but definitely introspection into his psyche. So
it does have a payoff at the end, though, when April says the next time it will be your commission. Why, yes, it was. Yes, it was. But that's leaping ahead much further than we do in this episode.
Do I need to play the spoiler alert again?
I don't think so. It's from 1966. I don't think so. Anyway, this plan goes into effect, and Mitchell goes to engineering and simulates a coolant leak to evacuate the crew and the inspectors from the ship.
I love the grin on her face as she's exiting engineering.
But the other grin on somebody's face is we get Commander Pelia on board the ship. She's actually the one in charge of this inspection and refit.
This character. She did a great job.
She just strolls onto the bridge like nothing's going on. You've got, these warning signs flashing everywhere.
I half expected her to bust onto the bridge going, liar, liar.
I mean,
Where's my
you know
toaster? Whap.
You know that character walked onto the bridge because she already knew exactly what was going on.
Oh, yeah.
And she's like, "Oh well, I better make sure I know. Might as well just go to the bridge then."
Oh, well, what do you know? Somebody simulated a coolant leak. Are you insinuating that somebody, I'm not insinuating, I'm flat out saying it. Yes, because it turns out that this plan to simulate a warp core breach was attempted being pulled on someone who teaches a class at the academy in warp core breaches.
He taught a class.
So Spock said, I didn't know that.
I got to go back and listen to the exact words on that first interaction. Did she say, I have a class? Like it was hers, but not.
Yeah, she taught it.
I teach a class.
She was speaking in the present tense, but later she goes back and says, I taught a class.
I think she's already decided she's not leaving the ship, and so she's already changed her tenses.
Ah, okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, good one.
It's quite clear as soon as she starts talking that her entire end game has been planned out before she walked onto the bridge. Leverage. I know exactly what's going on here. We also find out that she knows Spock's mother, to Spock's surprise. And she offers to help with this plan. So she should suggest that Ortega's vent ionized plasma from the warp cells.
Do it right. Carol Kane played this character so well. I just absolutely love her in this role.
And it's great. She says, can you vent ionized plasma from the warp nacelles? And Ortegas goes, well, I can, but should I?
Well, you can't help but make comparisons between her and Pulaski as we have a major second season character introduced.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel they're making an effort to make her much more likable. And I wonder if that's intentional or not.
It's hard to make Carol Kane unlikable. So,
Oh, no, I know that. But I'm saying that to choose a character that's less abrasive, there had to be some thought in their heads, when the comparisons would come up.
Well, it's also you want something that's almost a 180 from your previous chief engineer. And certainly we're going from very subtle and very philosophical to very broad and, just coming out and saying things. All right. So this plan works and the Enterprise is ordered to get away from the space station. They sever the.
She's exiting the bridge, though.
Oh, that's right.
Says, oh, the accent. You're Lanthian. Guilty as charged. So they've identified her species, because there's an interaction in there where she says, I haven't been in an engine room in 100 years. And
100 years.
100 years? It's a long story. A very long story. Like, whoa, we just opened up a Pandora's box of future hooks in this show.
And just as a side note, that race was never referenced before that I'm aware of.
I don't think so.
No,
okay.
But we find out at the end of the episode that apparently they've been on Earth for a very long time, but only in the 22nd century did they reveal themselves.
Gary 7? No. Anyway.
Yes, it's a lanthanite. Yes.
Lanthanite, that's what it was.
Lanthanite, yes.
I think I have a countertop made of that stuff.
It's very shiny, I understand. So they're ready to go. They're obviously going to disregard any call back to the dock. And Ortega says, well, okay, you got to say your thing before we go. What's my thing? We've seen this clip in the trailer, so we know what's coming up. We get to find out some other captains saying, apparently Mitchell's former captain used to say zoom.
That's
zoom.
That's not right.
And I love the way Uhura says, Pike says, hit it, and just cocks her head to the side. And they're like, yeah. And Spock asks, well, Ortegas, what is yours? Well, I'm workshopping a couple, including Vamonos.
I kind of like that one. That was good.
But Spock grips the arms of the captain's chair and exclaims, I would like the ship to go now.
So it's his word now?
I guess.
No, it's the whole phrase.
The whole thing?
Okay. And Uhura just kind of smiles and goes, we got to work on that. Isn't that cute?
So meanwhile, on Kajitar 4, La'an is engaged in a drinking game with a Klingon, and of
Oh,
course,
hang on. There was an interesting scene when they
yes,
were pulling away from Space Dock or
okay,
Starbase. They pulled away and then they inverted. So this was the first of 2 key inversion shots that I noticed. Like,
yes.
that's unusual. Usually they just, sort of turn and go whoosh, almost like a speedboat, but they were purposely doing a 180 around the
Well,
hull.
did the ship turn or did the camera view go
No, it
underneath?
turned. It
No,
turned. It was
both did, and it made sense space wise because it got the ship away from the
exactly.
space station as quick as possible if you were
Right.
going to explode.
And
But
if you've got
a new shot.
gravity plating in the hull, it really doesn't matter which way your ship is oriented in space.
Yeah.
Despite ships always seeming to go nose to nose instead of, at
Right.
cockeyed perpendicular weird angles.
Right, and that type of, we don't normally see that. The only place we really have seen that previously was in the Kelvin timeline. They would have shots where you'd have odd orientations of the ships, the camera views of the ships, and it wasn't always just on that horizontal plane.
Right.
So I'm definitely in favor of that type of thing. What did you think of the drinking game? Did you think that Luan was going to lose to the Klingon?
No.
Yeah, to me
what
that
would be the point? I mean,
Yeah.
No, but it makes me think that maybe blood wine isn't as strong as we think it is if they're drinking it by the barrel.
yeah,
it's only 4% ABV.
But the cups they were drinking out of are the same cups. At least I recognize them from Deep Space Nine that they used for blood wine too.
it's ceremonial.
No, I
Yes.
know they normally making the most common
This
ones
is
that I
reality, Craig.
recall are the ones that are almost shaped like the nuclear power plant cooling towers, with that kind of curvature in the slender waist, but they've got sort of a ribbing on them horizontally. No handle. These
Yeah.
had a handle, but also a flange on the rim that was sort of wavery, that seemed like it was just conducive to dribbling.
Yeah,
Which-
but I'm in the middle of a Deep Space Nine rewatch, so I've been seeing the cup a bunch of times as I hit the late season. So I was like, oh hey, I recognize that.
Well, I'm sure the edge of the cup is probably all battered because they just like smashing them into each other and into their own heads, and all those cups take a beating.
How about the look of the Klingons? That was
Yeah.
interesting.
Slightly different than what we've seen. Yep.
So we
So
kind
that
of
was,
have
that was nice. They're pulling back to, I guess, would we call it the TNG standard versus?
Similar. Very
Their-
similar.
their
Yeah.
bumps were they were smoother, right, than some Klingons we've seen after that. And I'm not just talking about just Discovery. It almost seemed like it could be a logical way to come back from the virus. Kind of, they just seemed some of them seemed a little smoother than others. Like you kind of had a mix in there.
We had a
Klingons.
good diversity, right? And I think that's only natural. I mean, when you look at humans, we have different shaped noses, we have different shaped foreheads, we have
Well, I was
different.
just thinking how different than Discovery it was.
Yeah.
Given that if this is all supposed to be the same timeline, it was interesting to have that change.
Oh, you're right.
So maybe they're just ignoring it, which I'm fine with. But but given that this is they tell us that this is the prime timeline.
Yep.
The fact that the Klingons look like that was pleasantly caught me off guard. But
Well, it is still a bit confusing because depending on how you look at it, but they don't look like TOS Klingons either.
Yeah.
So I don't think
That
they
I
were
can get away with.
Yeah, because I don't think they were in a winning situation to try to go back to that, because clearly the Klingons changed even for Star Trek: The Motion Picture to that being the look of the Klingon. So you have to buy into that. That's the high definition version of a Klingon. Has that kind of look to them.
Okay, so we had a drinking game.
Right.
Lana
So
wins.
that's over.
Somebody else
with.
sits down up front and offers money. They say, I don't want your money. You know what I want.
She wants a meeting with Greymax. And what's all that about? Well, we're going to find out pretty darn soon, because
Which is eye of Mbenga, who does this little gesture with his
Yeah,
finger under his
if he'd done
eyelid.
this, I think it would have been in a sting. So I don't know.
Or Santa Claus.
And so Lon gives a briefing to everybody in the landing party. Says that she had come to this planet because Oriana, the little girl she was trying to find the parents of, they were on this planet, and so they were reunited, which was a good thing. However, we then get the backstory about the planet itself, that it once was a distribution point for dilithium, apparently for everybody. They didn't really make it super clear how it worked in the pre-war times, but it seemed like it was just someplace you would go, like a store, like everyone just went there to get their dilithium.
Come on down to Retnex. No, what was the name of the name of the planet?
Oh, you got to make me look that up again, aren't you? Kajitar.
Come
Kajitar
on
4.
down to Kajitar 4. We got the lowest prices on dilithium.
We got it finished. We got it unfinished. We got it.
So during the war, you had this like no man's land. Everybody was out for themselves, just mining the stuff. And you had, I guess, rogue Klingons and rogue Starfleet people profiting off of what was going on here. And then, unfortunately, peace broke out. And
I hate it when that happens.
the people that were making all of the money on both sides off of this, or whatever, Starfleet, what does Starfleet need with money? Other cultures use it, so
Well,
they
when
probably
they
need it for
said
that. But
there are certain parties that were interested more in profit, my mind immediately went to the Ferengi.
no, they specifically called out that it was Klingons and Starfleet.
Yeah. The first time I heard someone wants profit.
Yeah, the Ferengi missed out on this one. So their plan is to restart the war, and they're looking for all sorts of Federation tech to do it with, which is what Lon is trying to set up this meeting, because she's got some things she's going to try to trade and get some more information about, well, what exactly, how is this going to be pulled off? What are you going to plan to be doing? So she's working that angle with it. But we also found out that a couple of days ago, there had been an explosion in the dilithium mines. And then suddenly lots of people had ion poisoning.
Which is indicative of photon torpedo.
Right, because Mbenga says, well, that's not something that would come from dilithium, but a photon torpedo would certainly set that off. So they go off to try to help in that situation by helping Oriana's parents get over their sickness, while you have Spock and Ensign Uhura, much to Lon's surprise, going off with her for this meeting to take place. So which adventure do you want to talk about first when they split up?
We'll do Lons.
Yeah.
Okay. So she goes to a meeting in this kind of junky area of course it's all junky. The Klingons made a mess of the place.
Yeah. This is the really rundown part.
So Spock and Uhura are hiding off in the distance. And as the Klingons are approaching Lon, they're talking in a dialect that is not normal Klingon. And Uhura recognizes that, and she's using the translator and trying to dial in on that and figure out what they're saying. Lon goes to make the trade, and she's trying to get information out of Gray Max, and he's not really budging too much. He just says he wants more of this tech, and he wants it as fast as possible and as much as possible. And she pulls the trick that apparently they didn't learn anything from well, it would be afterwards. Picard's Jack Picard, Jack Crusher pulled that same bit with the fake explosion thing on the bridge at the end of season 3 of Picard. So she pulls
antimatter
detonator. That, of course, is just a flashing light.
That's also it could also duplicate the internet from the IT crowd.
You have to have a box associated with that, though. Uhura says that when the Klingons were speaking in this dialect, they said whatever's going to happen is going to be happening tomorrow. And that's what they know at this point. They want to go back to the ship and confer with Mbenga and Chapel to find out what they found out.
But they can't find them.
And Chief J, who we're now seeing for the first time, what happened to Kyle, we don't know, but suddenly we've got a new person in the transporter room says, I lost their signal. Well, what had happened to them is they did indeed go, and they were able to give an injection to one of Oriana's parents that was going to get her back on her feet in about a day or so. But then they were intercepted by another Klingon who sees they have medical equipment and says, yeah, come with us. Just come with us. With disruptors, whatever they have drawn. Mbenga and Chapel go into the mines. And as they're walking through the mines, Chapel says, well, I don't normally like caves, but I've never seen one this big before. And Mbenga says it's from decades of mining dilithium. And there in the shot is a full-size Federation starship.
I don't know about you. Have you been in a large cave? Like man-made cave?
Yes.
You have to have columns
Support
every so
structures.
often to support the roof. This had none of that.
Well, it's the lattice of the crystallization of the dilithium's
They
interaction.
would have mined all that. I thought the same thing. It's like maybe dilithium's stronger. No, they would have mined all that out.
Well, didn't you see all the columns outside? There's something that's lighter out there than we're expecting.
They moved them all outdoors.
Yeah. They're taking up a lot of room down here. Get those out of here.
How are we supposed to build a starship in here? Get those out.
Now, before the show, Gary and I were having a conversation about this starship because the starship is identified as Crossfield class.
We've heard that before.
Crossfield class is the class of ship that Discovery and the Glenn were. If you look at the primary hull, the disk section, it is indeed that same configuration. The secondary hull, where the nacelles are and the body of the ship, that is not the same. Now, I had one theory about what was going on here, and Gary had a different theory. So my theory was that the Klingons, during the war, the Klingons got word of the Discovery, and they wanted to get their hands on it. And there had been some people who had seen the ship. So the Federation leaked plans to a Crossfield class ship, and the primary hull looked like the Discovery's, even though it didn't function the same and had no spore drive section in it. It just had laboratories and so forth in it. And this other nacelle section, which is totally unlike the Discovery. So it's just kind of like, oh, how clever of you to have gotten our plans for the Crossfield class ship that is the mysterious ship. Ooh, what will we ever do? And they figure the Klingons are going to waste their time trying to build one of these things.
With the rubber band drive.
Yeah, exactly. So they had plans for the ship, and they built this ship in the caves. Gary has a different thought.
Yeah. Now, my thought is that there's no way they're cobbling together enough resources and equipment to build a ship from scratch. It's just not going to happen. So my guess is that during the war, there were some holes that were blown up or destroyed, and they went through a battlefield and scooped up maybe a primary hull and some other stuff to try and cobble together. And that's another reason they needed the Starfleet technology that they were trying to get from La'an, was that they need any Star Trek gear, Starfleet gear they can to rebuild the ship that they're salvaging, I guess you'd say.
And I would have really liked that theory of it if it weren't for the fact that it was a Crossfield class, primary hull, the saucer section.
No.
There were only 2 ships in that class, and we know what happened to both of them. Right? One was completely
Maybe.
I see. There was a secret one someplace. Well, that could be.
Scott.
But anyway, so they find this thing, they go on board, and the reason they were called there is because they have to treat the Klingons who have this ion poisoning. They do that, and suddenly you start to get these. You've got it before in the episode already, but when Mbenga is talking to the Klingon he's working on, Mbenga has to retell the story of where he was during the war on one of these planets where there was a giant battle, and he becomes very succinct and cold. And when that's all done, Chapel's coming over and saying, "Are you okay?" And he says he is, but she kind of knows this is a little too much that's going on with him right now, to be surrounded by
She
this
starts
stuff.
addressing him by his first name, Joseph. You know,
Yeah.
so it's a flag. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because clearly there's stuff going on. We find out that he always carries something with him that they're going to use in a minute. And so I think he definitely has some damage from being in the war that we weren't previously aware of. You know, he's got his own scars and that he carries with him from, these things, including this horrific battle where apparently there was so much blood afterwards that the sky was red. But they realize that they have to get through to the Enterprise to tell them, hey, there's a ship here. And because Mbenga has already figured out what they're going to do with the ship, but they have to get to the bridge because maybe there's some equipment there to communicate. And of course, Chapel goes, they're just going to let's walk around and say, excuse me, can we use your stuff to make a call? And he pulls out the green stuff.
Was that before or after that it launched?
That was before, because they were in the,
right.
I think it was supposed to be the sick bay. I'm not really sure, treating the Klingon. And they inject themselves with this, I don't know exactly. We don't know exactly what
green
it was.
Juice of some kind.
It's not really.
And they both, there's a slow-mo drop. They both drop their hypo sprays, but yet one, you watch the hypo sprays empty on camera. They drop them in slow-mo, and one full green vial hits the ground.
That was the spare that was in there. That was the spare.
What editing was that?
It looked better. That's why it's like, it looks better.
The splash.
Yeah.
You might as well just drop a fully loaded coffee cup or something.
It was a little bit that was in the top section, kind of drained back into the cylinder. That's it. Yeah, that's it.
Adjust it for weight. Chapel is lighter, so she didn't need as much.
Then you see their pupils, close up of pupils dilating, and we're going into full.
But no shirts ripped open. I was expecting the Hulk. No.
You and me both, buddy.
But suddenly the stimulant is giving them the ability to just have at the Klingons as they try to battle their way towards the communications area.
Fun
of the
fight
ship.
scenes. I gotta admit, I enjoyed these fight scenes.
Well, I cheated and watched the Ready Room, and they mentioned how Mbenga's in real life is actually a jiu-jitsu master.
Oh, I had not watched.
You weren't doing no jujitsu in those scenes.
Yeah,
jujitsu is a ground technique.
Although he was doing a couple of interesting moves. There was one that looked like he was almost doing a karate chop. It's too
no double fist punch.
Oh no, but it's too close up to really see what he was doing. It was like very much in the foreground, and you couldn't make out the entire action that was going on. It was like a ha.
I was watching this with my wife, and she mentioned how it was a good fight scene. I said, "Well, they can't rely on Kirk Fu forever."
That's right.
I swear, at one point he gave that Klingon an ear boxing, and he fell down.
He did. Yes.
Yeah, and Chapel gave some good karate kicks.
Mm-hmm. So they battle their way through the ship. They find a Klingon who refuses to give them any information until Mbenga gets
darn near kills him.
Really gets carried away.
Joseph, he won't tell you anything if he's dead. I thought this guy is the worst Klingon ever. You're supposed to die before you give up secrets, and he's like, "Oh, you want the access codes too?
Deck 13.
Here's my luggage combination."
Well, somebody has to get dishonor, or it wouldn't be a thing,
So they do find a communications junction, and they're able to. Mbenga is able to embed something into the transponder, but that's about all they can do. And then they have to leave, and the juice is running out for them.
You see in some kind of room with only an airlock.
Yeah. So I think it's a ready room before you go out the airlock, because it has an airlock on both sides. So I think that's why they were expecting to find spacesuits possibly in those lockers. But no, not really.
They found parts of one.
They did. One part here, one part there. The rest are arriving on Tuesdays, but that's
Well, they had
Which is why I think
previously
it's salvage. They wouldn't have put partial space.
They-
well,
from
but
scratch.
they might have, because all you want is to have is debris.
Oh.
You know,
the
appropriate
first
debris.
message he sent out was actually a message in Morse 2, whatever that is, to Enterprise. It says,
It's better than
"Enterprise,
Morse.
destroy this ship."
It has emojis in it. That's what it's Morse 2.
It has emojis.
Great. Now I got to learn code for a smiley face. Oh, jeez. Yeah.
Poop, poop, poop. Oh, that's Omega. He loves that.
He's like a 5-year-old. I don't know. Yeah, so in the middle of all this, when they're trapped, the ship starts to rise. It's heading out of the caves. And we get that classic thing where Lon is going, well, I don't know whatever they're going to be doing, because the members of the Broken Circle group have left, so I don't know exactly what's going to be happening. Q ship rising up behind her and taking off into the sky. But I noticed she doesn't then report
Yeah.
to the Enterprise, I just saw a Federation ship leave the surface.
Yeah, they have to figure it out from the ship.
Yeah.
Things launch from the surface. It's
Yeah.
a ship.
And the Klingons have already arrived. Fortunately, the Enterprise is hiding in a debris field, so they are hidden from the ship. But the other ship notices that. I'm trying to figure out, how did the other ship, the false flagship, get into the false flagship trying to do the same maneuver, go into the debris field and surprise the Klingon ship, which
I
is
think
how they got in
that
there?
was the idea.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
All right.
And it was a nice Klingon ship. We got a really nice view of this D7. It's a little rougher than the TOS D7s. So it's got that same sort of field difference that the Enterprise does right now. And we got a nice view of their warp nacelle, and it sort of pops open.
Oh, it retracted into a weapon. I thought that was beautiful.
It had the little grill on the back, like the way the Enterprise warp nacelles do. So yeah, very nice. Tech geeking out. So.
All right, so the Spock and the crew of the Enterprise have this false flagship in their sights. They can destroy it before the Klingon ship ever knows that it's there, and Spock is hesitating
because he knows,
right? Because he
Chaplin
knows,
and Benga are on board,
and he's being very emotional. Suddenly, something's overriding something else, right? And he's thinking with his heart and not his head. He really should have fired on the ship, and he didn't. He waited.
His eyes are tearing up.
But finally, he has to give the order, because suddenly the Klingon ship has noticed everybody by this point, and he fires just after. Now, this is a question about debris, because just after Mbenga and Chapel have exited out into space, did they get far enough away from the ship that they were not subject to be getting hit by debris?
He said that the jetpack could propel him away from the ship.
Yeah, their plan was to go away from the ship as soon as they got out anyway. So
yeah, I don't know how fast a jetpack would take you, but okay, we'll go with that.
Maybe they're meant to save you if a ship's going to explode.
Yeah, maybe that'd be a good thing. You would like.
It was like Spock when he had that emergency booster thing where he hit it with V'ger. Yeah.
Yeah, had to go to V'ger.
And then when you're done with it, you just let it go. You don't worry about it after that. You just toss it off. All right. They were able to rescue Mbenga and Chapel, but Spock, still being very emotional. And I thought this was odd. I don't know about you, but he's all concerned about Nurse Chapel. And Benga's just lying there on his side, with frost all over his beard and everything.
Yeah, he's conscious. He'll be fine. Walk it off.
So Spock is trying to do CPR, saying, "You will live. You will not die. You will not die." And Chapel opens her eyes.
I just noticed, Gary, you look like you're on the holodeck, because the Zoom virtual background thing around your head
keeps fading out.
Looks like your holo emitters are having a play.
Sir, and I will work on a tech upgrade. Yeah.
You're not. Oh, you're not. I'm so disappointed.
I feel like Ruafo has just discovered that he's on It's like pokes his hand into the hole.
Welcome to the Truman Show. All
Okay,
right.
back to the story.
Okay, so the Klingon captain is now very upset with what's going on here, and he has his own spin on what happened
You
just now.
destroyed the ship because both of you were trying to attack us and you failed. So you wanted it to look like you're covering up your failure. And Spock is playing diplomat at this point, going, why would I destroy a ship? He's working, he's trying to cover all his angles. So he's back into logical mode as best he can. And I thought this was an interesting path that this conversation took, because the Klingon commander, he says, well, you are, I don't believe a man until I can look him in the eye in person. Do you drink blood wine? And Spock says, I've been known to indulge, whatever his exact words
And
were.
I'm going, Vulcans don't drink alcohol.
You are a most unusual Vulcan. They keep hitting that note.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They keep
They
hitting
do.
that
You're
note.
an
Everybody
unvulcan
does.
Vulcan. Yeah.
Yeah, the Vulcan who's un-Vulcan. This is not your normal Vulcan.
Well,
So,
wasn't that
I
the
mean,
point of this episode? I mean,
I
to a large
feel like
extent,
it was a little bit beaten over our heads, though. One or two, maybe three, but
Right, because Pelia says, oh, you sweet unvulcan Vulcan.
yeah.
So yeah, they beam down to the planet. Spock and what was his name? Chakath or
The Chuck.
the Chuck?
No, not the Chuck. The Chuck.
God bless you. Anyway,
They're whooping it up, and I love, the Chuck goes rah, and Spock's roar was sort of this half-hearted rah. Not even an eyebrow or anything moved.
I have done the thing.
It was so classic. He does it again a little bit later when they have refills.
well, historically, his father's supposed to be an ambassador, so maybe picked up a trick or two along the way.
He ends up an ambassador later, so maybe
Yeah,
this is a bit of foreshadowing.
Indeed. Much in the future.
Yeah.
So we see that Luan is considering what her future is going to hold, and clearly her future is going to be going back to the Enterprise. And Pelia makes it known that she's going to be hanging around too.
One drink of wine and you're getting personal.
That's how it is, huh?
I love this character.
Yeah, I expect a lot of great character moments out of her as the season goes on. Yeah.
All right. And of course, now the axe is going to fall on Spock because he's still in the Enterprise against orders. He could have started a war. He could have restarted the whole war with what he was doing.
If you could lower your volume of your voice, please. Are you
Do you have
hungover?
a hangover, Spock?
Diplomacy comes at a price, I guess. That was priceless right there.
And April says, well, consider that your punishment. But next time, this is what we get the next time, it'll be your command, And
I'm not. I don't understand Federation policy with starship theft. It seems to waffle all over the place as far as implications.
well, we find out why though he gets let off on this one.
No, I know.
Right. So at least this one is not just he's a buddy of mine type of thing. Because
it's like the Sherman Antitrust Act. Someone had to ruin it for the rest of us.
Yeah. Don't ever steal the Enterprise again.
And insider trading and all that stuff.
We find out that Commodore Tafune and April are discussing the upcoming threat, and we see flashing on the screen.
Well, he said you kind of went easy on him.
Yeah, because he needs to hang. He needs all the good officers,
right?
He can get.
April says he just potentially prevented a war on two fronts. You're like, oh,
right. And our first thought is like Romulans, perhaps, but no.
That's what I thought at first too. Then they go to that sort of heads up radar display, whatever it was, and they went unidentified object coming in. Gorn. So
although how a single Gorn ship, it means a whole second front of a war, wasn't made clear to us yet.
Well, it's possible because they already knew about it. This would not be the first time this had happened. That's my guess. So
my overall thought was great storyline, but I think they're starting to arc more than they intended. Wasn't the whole point that this was going to be very episodic and you could jump in? Now they're bringing in a larger arc.
Right. Well,
This was a setup show for something, a whole
Right.
lot of something.
well, certainly we got a setup for another Gorn encounter, which we know is coming later this season.
You know,
And we have
they can do setup without stretching it through 4 or 5 episodes. They could give us this teaser and then 4 episodes down the line have another.
That's true, and they have
Right.
been known to do that. They'll take something that's, what was it, 1 or 2 episodes last season that were very lighthearted, going, "Okay, there's a little more levity, a bit more upbeat, or a bit more personal," "Hey, let's have Spock and T'Pring swap bodies," or something. So, okay, so it I just I got done with this one going, "Ugh, strap in, boys. We're in for a
Well, I
long
know
season."
we have Una, we have this plot line too still stringing along, and I see your point, and versus their thing that it was going to be episodic, but hopefully maybe they're just points along the way and not a full arc.
Yeah, I get a sense that several of them are just this idea that if something happens in episode X, you just don't have total memory loss in the next episode.
And they'll
so-
always do the previously on Strange New Worlds to spotlight those at the beginning of an episode if they need to make a callback.
Right. So you have those elements which they see as that's kind of their take on, yes, it's episodic for the adventure that's going on in that episode, but the characters live from episode to episode. And so some of the things that are happening to particular characters may take a while to work through, or you need a resolution for that a little bit later on, maybe 5 episodes later, suddenly, oh right, so that thing was going on there, type of thing. So yeah, I don't mind it if it doesn't become the plot, if it stays as just a background character building elements, that's fine. All right, but now comes the part where we get to rate this one. So I'm going to say we're going to rate it on antimatter detonators.
Oh, that's a good
Oh,
one.
yes.
I was looking for that as well.
All right, so I'm going to have our guest go first. 1 to 10 antimatter detonators for the Broken Circle.
I'm gonna go with 8.5. I thought this was a solid episode. They moved a lot of plot lines along. I enjoyed the introduction of the new character immensely. I loved the interaction between Mbenga and Chapel was just phenomenal. But like you said, there were some questions about this whole movement to start the war up again that I would have liked to see some more information on. Why are there always these plots in Starfleet? This whole, I mean, it seemed a little too neat for this handoff for dilithium in real life. But other than that, it was a pretty good story. And the fight, while fun, was still a little hokey that they got this miracle serum that we don't know anything about. And then they're each able to fight off 10 Klingons apiece. It was a little.
That's exactly what it was. It was Mirakuru, which almost sounds kind of Star
Well,
Trek.
at least it wasn't Ketracel White, but
No.
yeah.
Or
I,
Troll,
um,
yeah.
I did enjoy, though, as it's wearing off, and Chapel says wearing off. One of the times she goes to wail on the Klingon, she goes, "Ow!"
Yeah.
Worn out to the point where she's actually feeling the punches that she's throwing. So I thought that was fun. I am also going to give it an 8.5. I think for a lot of the same reasons that the story moved along, and we didn't get any great major plot. I feel like we got a season opener type of plot that said, here's the things that we're continuing, that are going to continue, and here are the things we're wrapping up. Like, Lon's, side quest is over. She'll be back on the ship, presumably, in next episode and so forth. I felt like the story was serviceable, but it was really this was more of a character piece, and including the new characters we were getting introduced to. So I very much appreciate that. I feel like that is also part of the setup that, okay, we're already up and running with Pelia. It's like we don't have to we want to know more about her. We want to know, about somebody who basically lives forever.
A
But
long story. And, we didn't touch on that because she had a very touching moment with Spock at the end. She says, "You know what the problem is with living virtually forever?" He said, "Experiencing the loss of the ones you love."
no, anything with a half a heart experiences that, being alive. No, it's boredom.
Boredom. Yeah.
Just like you. No.
There's a lack of boredom on this ship. So I'm in.
So essentially, she's saying, "Yeah, I like this ship."
I like the fact that he went to the emotional response too.
Yeah.
Experiencing the loss of the ones you love. But she said, no, 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 no. That's the easy answer.
So 8.5 for me as well. Chuck, I'll let you have your drink there first.
I'm going to go with 8.5 also. I agree with you on all points. It's great to have the show back. It feels like it's been forever since we saw the first season. I should have gone back and watched the first season. And for whatever reason, my Paramount app wants to throw me back into the first season when I say, watch the latest. And up comes like episode 10.
Yeah, you're not the only one. It happened to me this morning as well. The first time I went to play it.
Paramount app sucks.
But as a side note, there are now avatars for Brave New Worlds on Paramount Plus.
I'm sticking with Boimler. Ah!
Oh, I have to change mine. Mine looks like this green guy made out of goo.
Oh, yeah, that's the default one.
Yeah.
And Donna's is Susie from Rugrats. We haven't changed them since they started.
Got to collect them all. All right, that's our review and ratings on this episode. If you have a different opinion about it, please let us know. You can leave a note for us over on our Facebook page for The Topic is Trek, and we'll be happy to read your comments on that. But now it's time to come back from our main mission with an appropriate sound effect.
The subterranean elevator. Short.
I thought it was the cells. They weren't completely full of their, recovered from the venting they were doing.
We need more deuterium on deck 3.
And to go to our warp speed roundtable with an appropriate sound effect.
Oh, we need another one?
Yep.
How about a here's one.
Let's wrap this up, shall we?
No, that's no.
We're not there yet.
As someone once said, give me back my show.
All right, how about this one?
We have an imposter aboard.
Oh, that would be Gary.
Yep.
All right, but let's get to the Warp Speed Roundtable question. So back in December of 2020, which feels like 3 lifetimes ago, even if you are a Lanthanite, we asked, if you were the captain of the Discovery, what would your catchphrase be? Because that's, I believe, when you had Saru trying to come up with what his catchphrase was going to be for the captain's chair. But now we've got a whole bunch of other shows and so forth that have premiered. So question this time is, if you were the captain of a Federation starship, anyone, what word or phrase would you use to order the ship to warp speed? And I'll give you some examples. Obviously, you could choose from engage or let's fly or warp me, punch it, hit it, or carry on, which is what Saru came up with, or anything else that you want to have as when you sit in that chair and everyone's looking at you, what would you say?
Release the hounds.
Well, we'll get you in a second. So Gary, once again, you're the guest. What would you like to have as your catchphrase?
It's a military phrase, and I've used it with my Boy Scouts troops when we're hiking and stuff like that, and it's time to get moving. And it's Oscar Mike for on the move. So that would be my my thing would be Oscar Mike, meaning let's go, we're on the move, we're not standing still.
I like that. Very, very military on that.
Yeah, that's like too military for me, man.
Sorry.
It's like
I know we're not a military organization, but
we are at the same time. So there you go. I have a very simple one. I would just say drive. Just go.
Yeah.
I had one earlier today, but the more I thought about it, the more I went with the second one. So the first one that I came up with was rocket. Okay. See how that kind of has a throwback connotation to it? Like,
Is that one word or two, Chuck?
see, that's the part you got to figure out. But I
Oh,
jettisoned that one in favor of, I like to move it, move it. I like to.
Wow. Madagascar. Why did it have to be Madagascar?
I think I'm stealing the rocket. I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, although if they get the wrong if they get the wrong meaning of it, you can just see like Ortega's going, "Where am I going to find a rocket?" You know. I don't think that's going to work, but okay.
I just
You're the
want
boss.
Jeremy's heads bow and shake every time they would say, "Oh God, we gotta go to warp."
I was going to use a spanner, but he
He's
said
gonna
steal
sing
the
that
rocket.
song again, isn't he?
Oh, please no, not again.
They'll put on big headphones.
On that note, it's time to refill the dilithium chamber and try to warp on out of here. So you can find me, Clinton, at Comedy Forecast, all one word, with the number 4.com. You can also find me on Instagram and Facebook and MeWe and Twitter and I guess a rocket that's going by. You can also find me on that as well. And I won't ask who speaks for you, Chuck, because I think it's you.
You can find us by searching for Technorama Podcast anywhere you find search engines or artificial intelligence or whatever they look for. Just say, I want Technorama Podcast, and you'll find it at chuckchat.com/Technorama.
Excellent. All right, time to hit the theme, boys. First, Gary, do you have anything you want to plug?
Not at this time, sir. Sorry. Just glad to be here. Thanks for having me, by the
Thank
way.
you.
Always
Yes,
fun.
thank you.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to have you here, and hope it happens again. Even when Craig is here, we always room for one more. As you can see, there's a table behind us, the ready room, plenty of seating available. All right, now it's time to hit the theme. If you like the show, please be sure to tell a friend about it and subscribe so you never miss an episode. We'd love to hear from you. Follow us on Twitter at The Topic is Trek, visit our Facebook page, or visit thetopicistrek.com. Until next time, on behalf of Chuck, Gary, and myself, I'm Clinton, thanking you for listening. And as we always say here on The Topic is Trek, don't
Put
on
on
the
red shirt.
red. Good job.
And we're out on the audio recording.
Woohoo!
Nice.
This concludes our broadcast day.
This
I miss
concludes
the
our
flags
test.
once in a while. Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun.
You see,
You know,
kids.
I'd wake up so early as a kid that the flag would actually still be on when I would wake up. Forget about going to sleep.
Ours would play, wave the flag,
Yeah.
play the anthem, and then go to static.
No, it would.
I don't know when it came back on. I never
Yeah,
figured
in the
that
New
out.
York area, they would almost keep it going all night. I mean, for like the 3 hours that they weren't, broadcasting or so.
The flag is just waving on a
Yeah.
loop.
Yep. Yeah.
That's
I
funny.
kind of wonder, like, who was that for at that time of night? Who?
Well, what I'll tell you is, you'd stay in the New York City area. You'd stay up through Star Trek at midnight, and you'd watch it till about 1 o'clock in the morning. And then if you around 4:30, they would have old Groucho Marx "You Bet Your Life" reruns on. So so in the middle you had flag. Yeah.
And Ripley's
He's so
Believe It or
funny.
Not.
You can watch Groucho today. He's still funny.
Yeah, winning $5 isn't that big a deal anymore. But yeah.
Back then, it could feed a family of 12 for 6 years.
He was a master of improv with his guests. I admire that guy.
Well, we are going to say goodbye to anyone who's watching the broadcast live, and thank you for joining us. Much like Gary, we appreciate having you here as well.
I'm going to do the national anthem in the style of my older brothers when they were 8 and 9 years old, before any foosball game or table hockey game, if you remember those. It goes like this. Oh, say, can you brave? They wanted to play first.
Yeah.
But
No
they
time for that
respected
applause
the
to start
flag.
halfway through the song. Yeah.
Well, they made it past the O, so that's
All right. See you later, everybody.